Alright, YouTube, what's happening? We've got another knife video for you. Actually got a plethora of knives out here. Let's move these out of the way and concentrate on this one right here. The Pena X series. This is the Lanny's clip in green micarta. Enrique Pena design, manufactured by Riot Knives. And I gotta tell you, I've always loved Enrique Pena's designs. Always loved them. Especially like these modern traditional knives he makes, where they have you take the Lanny's clip, you have your bolster, your micarta, your carbon fiber, but it has that very traditional knife look to it. But it's also modern flipper with a frame lock. There's bolster lock actually on this one, but I've always liked his designs like that way because they're kind of mix the best of both worlds, in my opinion. So, but his customs are pretty pricey. I mean, I think the least expensive one you're gonna find is like $600-700. Which, honestly isn't bad for a custom, but considering that's still a lot of money to most people. So when he teamed up with Riot, like so many makers have been doing to make these knives, I was stoked. I was like, yes, the chance to own a Pena. So still at $365, I believe is what these run. Blade HQ is where I purchased mine. It was a splurge. It's probably the most expensive knife I have in my collection at the moment, and it is phenomenal, and I think it's worth every penny. It's expensive, but when you put it in contrast to how much a Pena custom would cost, it's a fraction, right? It's awesome that the makers like Pena, Enrique Pena, like Tashi Barusha, like so many. The new Micro Typhoon, Brian Nadeau, Sharp by Design. I should have my Micro Typhoon tomorrow. But it's so great to have these designs come into our hands at a lot less, expensive, but still have the quality. Like, the quality of this knife is freaking impeccable. It is awesome. It is, not probably far from a custom. I haven't actually owned a Pena custom, but the customs I've owned, this is as good or better as some of the ones I've owned. So, alright, so let's go real quick, and we kind of talked about price. Get that out of the way at the beginning of the video, because if it's too much for you, then you may want to stop watching. So, this is on the higher end of things. Let's go over the basic specs on this guy. You have a 7.5-inch overall length with a 3.25 blade length with a cutting edge of just over 3 inches, 3.125. Blade width 1.125. That is the measurement this way, closed. Your thickness is 0.15, so not terribly thick blade stock, which is nice. Ooh, it's so good in the hand. S35 VN steel. You have a clip point recurve on the knife. One thing I'm not a huge fan of is the recurve, but I love the clip point on this guy. You have it's hollow ground with a stonewash finish with a 4.25-inch handle, so it's just right in my sweet spot. 1 inch wide in the width of the handle, and handle thickness is just a hair over an average of 0.54. I'd say 0.5 is typically average. It's a little thicker, but not too bad. And you have micarta on the handle skills here, titanium bolsters, titanium hardware, anodized blue. Again, that's another thing we'll come back to. Weighing in at 4.18 ounces. There is no skeletization or anything on the scales, so it could be a titch lighter. But for the size and everything, it's about perfect, really, in its weight. So, tip up carry on that, right hand only. There is no option for left hand. So, there's your basic specs. Let's go ahead and do our size comparisons to other knives. Let's do the other Riot knife that I have, the Baby Machine, which I absolutely love. They're very, very similar in size. Very similar. Let's do the Wee Knives Wisp. Probably my favorite Wee Knives. Wee Knives. Very, very similar in size also. And the ZT 609. Also pretty much identical. So, good sizes there. One more. The 940 is a little bit longer in the handle. Just to give you an idea, we're a more commonly known knife. Some of these aren't necessarily as commonly known. So, Alright, so there's our size comparisons. Okay, so let's talk about the build quality. And that's where Riot Knives is known for. Top notch. Probably the top. I wouldn't even, it's not even a stretch to say top in the game right now as far as production companies go. US, Chinese, wherever, they're probably near the top of all of them. It's no doubt in my mind that they are. The ones I've owned have been just impeccable. No issues, nothing, you know, always dead centered, no play, always nicely ground. They typically do a really good job on the plunge grind, and they did decent on this one. This is actually one thing I may say they could have done a little better. I wanted to look at my, they kind of did the same. No, so that's pretty straight on the baby machine. So there's a little bit of a flare right there, the tip, but that's pretty nitpicky. But you know, it is one thing when you're considering this kind of cash on a knife. You are going to nitpick it a little bit, but the grinds are always even. The bevels are always good. They always come super sharp. The finishing is always top notch. I mean, especially when you're dealing with a bolster, and you know, your handle, kind of how it integrates into the bolster, that is seamless. That is perfect. Beautiful chamfering along the edges here. The finish is just like, it's impeccable. You can't, you know, nothing you can say about it, honestly. Nice geared backspacer. Pocket clip works well. I mean, just the gaps right here are perfect. Gaps right here are perfect. I mean, it's just fantastic. Smooth. Dead center. No play. No issues with whatsoever. So the build quality is absolutely perfect. Near perfect. Minus that little bit of it. The plunge grind's a little wonky, but not a big deal. Not huge. Let's talk about that blade, actually, since we have it open, and let's kind of look at it a little bit more close up, because it's freaking gorgeous. You'll love a good clip point, man. I don't know how you beat this one, because it's got this beautiful swedge right here, and that is stone washed. You're stone washed here. You have your flats are satin grinders. You also have a satin grinder, kind of a tip, almost a tanto, clip point tanto almost. Then you have your recurve right here, and it's beautifully done. Now I could do without the recurve. It's a pretty substantial. I mean, you got this nice reinforced tip here with this nice swedge, and then you have this just kind of dramatic. You know, it gives you a lot of belly, and it gives you a lot of cutting edge right there, but pain in the butt to sharpen them. Let's see how thin this guy is behind the edge. Guessing pretty thin. Wow, 0.0. It's negative. 0.024. Pretty thin. Not terribly. Not, you know, that's probably your thinnest part. I think this tanto-ish area up here, yeah, way 0.039. So it's a lot more robust up here by the tip, which is good. So right through here, right in the middle of that recurve, you're going to have a pretty thin edge. Should be a good slicer. Right there, it's about 0.03 right as it starts to go into the tip right here. Beautiful. So well executed clip point. Probably one of the nicest I've seen. Like I said, could have done without the recurve, but I was okay with it because it's such a beautiful, beautiful knife. Love micarta. Love the choice of micarta with the titanium bolster. I think that's so attractive. The blue hardware I'm not a gigantic fan of. I wish it's titanium and everything, that's great, but it doesn't really go well with the finish. I think it should just be, you know, kind of this finish here of the bolster would have been a little better, or maybe even like a bronzed hardware. And I may actually have that done. I'll probably just get it blasted, call it a day, and I think it'll look a lot better personally. That's just my opinion. So build quality is top notch, as you'd expect from Riot knives. All right, I'm gonna back it out a little bit. The action is. Let's talk about the ergonomics first. Ergonomics are fantastic. It's got a very neutral handle design, which is great. It's a little thicker, but not too bad at all. It feels so good in the hand. There's no jimping or anything up here. But your hand, I have a medium-sized glove, and it's, you know, gonna come down to right there. So it's not a huge knife by any shape, but it's not what I would call really small either. It's kind of the in-between medium size, what I like to call it. Let's talk about the action. That is another place where Riot shines, is the detents are typically always consistent and dialed in. No exception here. Flies out of there. Super smooth on ceramic bearing, ceramic detent. Just kind of let you know, your pinnacle of knife making, really. It's just at the top of all those things, the action, everything about it. How does it carry? It carries well. I love carrying it. I use it. I've been EDCing it. First, I wasn't sure if I was going to because it's a nice knife. Pocket clip is definitely not deep carrying by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not bad, and it works well. It has just a right enough gap between the micarta and the where the clip goes, so you have plenty of space there for your pants materials. So it carries great. Not too wide. What was the widest point here? I think it's pretty wide actually. 1.4, the very widest, but I've never noticed it to be very wide in the pocket knife. It doesn't feel that way at all. You get that because of the clip point, but not bad at all. So carries nicely. It is pretty thin behind the edge. It is a really good slicer. I think that because that nice recurve. I mean, I say nice recurve, even though I'm not a huge fan of it. It slices really well. And you have a really good reinforced tip, so you got a lot of piercing and power and ability with this knife. Just a really good cutter. This philosophy of use, designed for this guy. This is definitely a higher end EDC knife. I don't think it's one you may carry every day, but it's one that you, special occasion, want to carry something nice, and it's kind of that style of knife, not necessarily a workman's, I don't care if I mess this, I beat on this knife kind of knife. It's really not. It's more almost borderline collection piece, but I've been using it and carrying it, so I don't really collect knives. I have a lot of knives, but I don't really have many that don't get used and carried. I pretty much rotate most of them. If they don't, they usually get sold. So by the many knife sales I have. Value-wise, you're up there in price, man. You're $365, but you've got to be relative when you look at the value of this, because you have to look at the maker. You have to look at the fit and finish. What would it cost you to have a custom? More than half off of what you'd get from a custom. So I think value-wise, it's, S35. It would be nice if it was M390, a little higher end steel for this price point. But you know what? It's worth it. It's up there with owning a Sabenza, or maybe even nicer. It's a fantastically built knife. I can't say enough good things about it. So value-wise, it's not going to be like your everyday person's knife. But I cover the price at the beginning of this video, so if you made it this far at the 13-minute mark, you're okay with the price. Competitive options in this price range, I can't think of anything. There's, ZT doesn't make anything like this fancy, really. The Baby Machine is less expensive. But it's another Riot knife, so there's really not a lot of competition, I would say, in this price point. Maybe some of the Wii knives. The Wisp is nice, but it doesn't come quite to the level of detail and craftsmanship of the Pena. So, I would say, maybe it's a topic for a whole other video, but I would definitely rank Riot knives at the very, very top of the fit and finish in the production world. Especially for the Chinese companies, I would say they're at the top, but I would say Wii is pretty close. Wii is definitely right there with them. So, but I would say a knife like this is something that kind of puts them over the top. Now, I haven't handled all of Weave's knives, obviously, and their top end stuff, but just from the ones I have and own, which is a couple right now, the ones I've done on pass around and stuff, they're definitely top quality knives, but I would give a slight edge to Riot still. But they do smaller batches of knives. Riot's not one that's going to make as many knives as Wii as well. So, do I like it? Absolutely. I think it's gorgeous. I think it's an amazing design. Like everything about it. Will it fit into my EDC? Like I said, not one I would carry frequently. I do carry it, but it's just not one that, it's just such a nice piece that I'm like, is it something I'm gonna want to beat on? So if I carry it, I typically carry like a beater knife, like a Tangram or something like that, where if I really need to get down to earth a knife, I can use that instead. But if I'm just doing light EDC tasks and stuff, this is just going to do just fine. Not that it can't handle it. It can. It's a very robust knife. It's just not. It's so nice. It's not something that I would want to use too heavy. So that's just my opinions. All right, guys, that's a requested video. I've got a lot of requests on that one from what I've shown in a few other videos. Doing it finally, so I finally decided to publish a review on it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.